We always went to church, always did the right thing, but I don't think we ever really sold out to the Lord. I believed in me a lot, and I felt that I was actually pretty good. I think Satan sold me a lie, which was that you're doing just fine, you're okay. This all culminated in an affair that I had about the 7th year of our marriage that lasted about 6 months. Sarah and I were married about 11 years ago. We had a typical Christian marriage. We did everything the right way. We enjoyed just being married, enjoyed each other. I was not prepared at all for the temptations that came my way because I thought that I was good enough to withstand that. I allowed lust to run free in my life because as long as I wasn't doing anything bad or acting out in any way bad, then it wasn't gonna, and as long as it wasn't harming anybody, then that was okay. My relationship with the other person was intermittent. After every encounter, I always was able to tell myself, hey, I can get over it. That's it. That's the last time. I'll never do it again. But I knew that it was me that was going to stop it. And every time I just went right back. I became more and more disconnected from Sarah, from my kids. I was able to do every action and say all the right things, but in my heart it was full of blackness. Seeing that my life was on a path of destruction, and my marriage and my family, which was still, I could still honestly say, was the most important thing to me, although I wasn't acting that way, was falling apart. As we're laying in bed that night, I said a simple prayer, and that was, Lord, if you need me to open up to Sarah about this, then just give me a sign, let me know. About
10 seconds later, I walked out of the bathroom, and I don't know what made me ask this question, but something in me did, and I just said, Matt, I want to ask you something, but I don't want you to be upset with me for asking. And he said, okay, and I said, is there anything going on with this person?
I basically sat up in bed, and I had my knees up to my chest, and I said, Sarah, I said, yes, and I need to tell you a few things.
It didn't sink in for about 24 hours. It took that time. The first thing was I just started crying because I didn't know what else to do. And I was angry. It was a bunch of emotions all into one moment.
When I was able to tell her every detail and everything that happened, she left. And for me, the one moment that I will never forget, I guess my holy place, was when I fell flat on my face at that point. And I literally remember feeling like I cannot get any lower. I remember looking to my right on the floor and seeing the space between the couch and the floor and thinking, I cannot, if I could, I'd get low enough to get under that. I started saying, I need you. God, I need you. And that's all I could say, that's all I could get out, because at that point, there was no direction, there was no path anymore, there were no plans anymore. Everything that you think about from the day you get married, from the day you meet each other, all of a sudden, all of your plans are nothing. And it was at that point, that was, I think for me, had to be the first step to any sort of redemption, or even coming close to any sort of freedom.
Probably one of the best things for me was that Matt had humbled himself so much. He was at such a place of humility that he allowed me to walk through all the stages of grief. And he took it. And because there was definitely anger. I was free with him to tell him exactly how I was feeling. And he sat there and he listened, and he didn't try to fix it and make it better, because he knew that at this point there was nothing he could do.
As we began to talk honestly with one another, that we started to see glimmers, or at least I started to see glimmers of hope a few days later. It's almost like the taste of truth was better than any lie that I'd ever listened to. One of the pivotal points for us in getting through this was we were at a retreat, and one of the activities was to get a piece of paper and write down your specific, I guess, sins, but be in detail about them. The more specific I was, the more power there was in writing these things down. So instead of writing, I had an affair, it was more like writing down specific places, specific events, specific emotions and feelings and dark things that I'd thought. We were told to fold them up and then start ripping it. Being that is representative of what the Lord does with your sin, it's just, it's gone, it's forgiven. And I noticed as I started ripping, I kept getting smaller and smaller pieces. And I realized I could not get these pieces small enough. It was a very healing process to do that. All these specific places and things and items and sins were gone. For that first time, I felt not just forgiveness, but I felt some freedom in this. I know there are people right now that are having relationships outside of their marriage. It is Satan's #1 tool to separate you from the most important person in your life. And light has to be shed on that darkness. There was a time where I knew what the right thing was to do. And making that leap from being in darkness and shedding that first amount of light on that was the most difficult step. And I did not know what would come after that. But I'm still astounded every day how blessed I am, how blessed we have been from the decision just to make that first step. I can walk around being forgiven, but also being free without guilt, because that's the beauty of what the Lord does for us in sin. And it doesn't take away what I did, but to know that we walked through that in order to get to this point is wonderful.